Okay, so this goes along with your urinary system notes in your HBS course file. This represents a nephron. The nephron is the structural unit of the urinary system, so it would probably correspond to something like the alveoli in the respiratory system or the heart in the circulatory system. So I'm going to go over this first, and then I've got some stuff written out. So we'll label the diagram, and then we'll specifically go over the different parts. All right, so this is a nephron, would be within the kidney. I've drawn a light little line right here to show you the fact that this part of the nephron would be in the cortex of the kidney, and this part of the nephron would be in the medulla of the kidney. This structure is red, and so that's indicating an artery, which is bringing blood into the nephron. And this is blue, indicating blood that's leaving the nephron. So this would be the blood that needs to be filtered, and this would be the blood that is clean. This blood would then return to the heart. All right, this structure right here is called Bowman's capsule. Within Bowman's capsule, this sort of mesh of blood vessels is the glomerulus. I have some different colors here. Orange shows the movement of filtrate. So all of these little orange arrows are showing how filtrate moves through the nephron. So orange is the movement of the filtrate through the nephron. I have a green for glucose reabsorption. So I have an arrow right here that's showing this is a main area of glucose reabsorption. Then this is purple. I know it doesn't show up too well, but this is purple, and that's water reabsorption. So I have an arrow showing water reabsorption here, water reabsorption here, and water reabsorption here. So those are some main areas for water reabsorption. And this is supposed to be brown. I know it's kind of hard to tell, but this is supposed to be brown. And so this is ions slash salts. And so that brown arrow is right there. And then I've got labeled a 1 here, a 2 in this area, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And I'll go over those one by one here in just a second. A couple terms that I've already kind of talked over and are important to know the definition of. So when we talk about secretion, within the nephron, secretion means that materials are moving from the blood into the filtrate. So things are being secreted from the blood into the filtrate. Reabsorption means that materials are moving from the filtrate back into the blood. The idea of the nephron is to clean and or filter the blood, so that's why these things are indicating either into or out of the blood. Okay, so let's go over these one at a time. So the structural unit is called a nephron, and so it's important to know that name. Number 1 on our diagram was up by Bowman's capsule. And in that area, we are filtering small solutes from the blood. Number 1, this little one up there by Bowman's capsule, and that area is filtering small solutes from the blood. Number 2 was the glomerulus, and that's that mesh of blood vessels within Bowman's capsule, and there's a lot of filtration that happens there. So number 2, that is a major source of filtration. Number 3 was on the top right, and we have water and solutes like sodium chloride that move out of the tubule into paratubule capillaries. So number 3, water and solutes like sodium chloride are moving out of the tubule into paratubule capillaries. Oh, I did forget to mention the X. So there was an X right underneath my word for glomerulus, and that is indicating the proximal tubule. The proximal tubule is the major place where glucose is reabsorbed back into the blood. It's on the diagram. You can go back and take a look. There's an X right under glomerulus, and that is indicating the proximal tubule. and that is where we, the main part where we reabsorb glucose back into the blood. Number 4, that is the descending loop of Henle, and this is a major portion for water reabsorption. So we've got water moving back into the blood. Descending loop of Henle, water reabsorption. Number 5, the arrows are going up. This is the ascending loop of Henle, water and sodium chloride reabsorption. The ascending loop of Henle, water and sodium chloride reabsorption. Number 6 was kind of going across, not quite in the middle, a little bit more over there on the right-hand side. This is the distal tubule. So the X was the proximal tubule. Number 6 is the distal tubule. And the distal tubule has a lot of reabsorption and secretion of water, and there's ammonia secreted into the filtrate. So ammonia is being cleaned out and into the filtrate. So that's going into the tubes of the nephron. Sodium chloride is moving out of the tubule into the tissue. That makes the tissue concentration higher in salt where the descending loop of Henle is, and that causes water to leave the loop of Henle. Sodium chloride is moving out of the tubule into the tissue. That makes the tissue concentration higher in salt, so it's hypertonic in the tissue. That causes water to leave the loop of Henle. And we want to take just a second. So 6, we were at the distal tubule. And so this is an area where we have a lot of sodium chloride that is being secreted into the tissue. And so this tissue right here is higher in sodium chloride, so it's hypertonic. And because it's hypertonic, the water potential is low in the tissue, but the water potential is higher in these tubules. So because water potential is higher in the tubules, it's going to want to move out of the tubules into the tissue. All right, number 7 is our collecting duct. We have secretion and reabsorption of water here. The permeability can fluctuate the permeability can fluctuate, and that will allow to increase or decrease secretion. So permeability has to do with the pores in that tubule. So the pores can either be widened or narrowed. And if they're widened, more stuff's going to move out of the tubule into the tissue. If it's narrowed, less stuff is going to move out. And so because permeability can change, can fluctuate, then it's either going to increase or decrease secretion, and that will determine what ends up being collected in the collecting duct. So ADH should look familiar. This is a hormone that is released by the pituitary. It is going to increase the amount of water that's absorbed in the nephron. Aldosterone, I believe we touched on that with our hormones as well. Aldosterone is a hormone released by the adrenal gland. It causes the retention of sodium ions. So we hold on to more sodium. That is going to increase water retention because the sodium is going to attract the water. It's going to pull the water. And GFR. GFR stands for glomerular filtration rate. And this is the amount of fluid and dissolved substances both kidneys can filter per minute. This can be an indicator of kidney function. So GFR is something that doctors will look at to see about how your kidneys are functioning. So glomerular filtration rate, and that equals the amount of fluid and dissolved substances both kidneys can filter per minute. It can be an indicator of kidney function.